Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I haven't been on here for a while, so I thought I would come on here and do a questions and answers and have a look at some of your questions relating to, I'm trying to think, I put a post out during the week saying what did people want me to cover on YouTube relating to OCD. And I've completely forgotten off the top of my head what was the main question because I'd remembered it to cover it. I think the main topic that was being asked. Yes, I have remembered. When I quote that fear is always a perception, is always an illusion. People ask me, well, Rob, can you explain exactly what that means? How that is the case? So I'm going to do that because it often doesn't. It's difficult because in tweets you can only write a certain amount. You can only write a certain amount in a tweet, so you can't exactly cover a great deal. So it's easier to do it on here. Now, when fear is an illusion, what I mean by that is anything that we fear, we've learned to fear. That it's only our beliefs that contribute to the fear. So say, for example, if you're scared of spiders, the reason you're scared of spiders is because of either usually a perception of them crawling over you and loss of control and that feeling being horrible, or you view them as so scary and horrific for some imaginary reason that we've built up in our head. Often from childhood and parents' reactions around spiders. It might have a relationship with them being dangerous. And bear in mind, I'm not an expert on arachnophobia. I'm just using this as a reference point as being dangerous because of venom and so on. But then it becomes irrational and becomes something far, far more than that. And then we view them really, really scary. And it's got a behavioral response to them. And that's exactly the same with all these OCD type fears, because what we do is we look at them and we think, okay, that is definitely scary because of X, Y, Z, because I remember it is, everyone's scared of it. That's not true at all. Let's just take some of the fears. So a lot of people are scared of spiders, but when they confront them and see they're an animal just trying to live their life, trying to get on in this world as best it can, then they realize, it's not actually so scary. And we know that they're not scary and have that physical response because people keep tarantulas as a pet, for example. So we know that's not the case. But then there can be loads of other ones. Maybe someone's got fear of HIV. Well, we know that people live with HIV who are not scared, not anxious all the time. So therefore, we know that anxiety is not, that because they're not anxious all the time because of HIV, when they've got it, they've accepted it, made peace. We know that the HIV itself is not terrifying. So it's the illusion, the view of it that we take with the irrational beliefs, it's terrible to have, It's very frightening to have HIV because it would mean I'd never be able to have a family, I'd never be able to do all these different things that I want to do, where actually in reality we can. So it's not the case at all. So I think that is really, really important to think about. And then if we look at, let's put some lights on here, so I get a drink. Then when we look at, for example, other fears, what other things do people fear? Maybe someone fears going to a hospital. Well, most people that go into a hospital don't die. Most people live a life. That's not from a reassurance point of view, from a rational perspective of the situation. So they actually are fine in the hospital. So there's no reason to be scared of hospitals in general. We know that people go into hospitals calm and aren't scared. What other things could people be scared of? Maybe someone's scared of getting punched. They think it would be terrifying until the one day they do get punched and realise they come through it. Or maybe they get knocked out and then come through it, or whatever. Maybe they have a broken nose and then get it repaired, or whatever. Any of these fears. Those are fears that might be very prominent when someone's a kid at school, or maybe being bullied or whatever. But maybe if you ask to, say, a boxer, for example, or someone who's in MMA, they will say that they get punched a lot and they're not scared of getting punched, but it's just quite unpleasant. So we learn to break down our fears like that when we actually confront them, when we actually look at them and we see them and see that they're an illusion and they're not exactly true. So I think that's a very important point that we've always got to focus on, because it's very, very easy to quickly get wrapped up in these fears and we forget that they're an illusion. Everything is an illusion. If you weren't scared of death, then pretty much all health OCDs are gone. If you weren't scared of being on your own and having a life where you're not in a relationship, then you wouldn't have any relationship OCD. If you weren't scared of for example, having a back injury, you wouldn't have OCD relating to the gym. Now, a lot of people have OCD relating to the gym. I get loads of teenagers, people in their early 20s and older, that are scared, what happens if I can't ever work out again? What if I can't ever, it stops me keeping in shape and I get really skinny? That used to be one of mine, actually. I used to be very, very scared of being skinny because someone called me skinny when I was about 14, 15, and as irrational as hell as I was at that time, I then thought, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever, being skinny. I've got to be really muscular. And so I then took up the sport of bodybuilding for probably about 8-9 years because of that. And then when I became rational later on, I realized that is completely irrational. Who cares if someone sees me as skinny? Who says which body type is the correct body type? Why is being in one body shape so terrible? But all of those disorders stem from that, with eating disorders and so on, that feeling of disgust and hate when we're in a certain shape, and then the sort of illusionary way we view our body shape that's manipulated by the likes of BDD and other eating disorders. So that happens. So in reality, everything that we are scared of is not scary in reality. We know that it's not specifically scary, but it's our perception of it that makes it scary. Now, let's have a look at some of these questions on here. If there are any. Maybe there wasn't any questions yet. Oh, there is. Can a compulsion be cringing to a thought or making a face? Can a compulsion be cringing to a thought or making a face? Yes, it can. Because what happens is it's a reaction. It's like you kind of control, like you're trying to either show yourself, no, I definitely don't have that reaction, or you just do it over and over because it gives you some sensation of comfort. So it absolutely can be that. So you want to try and stop that. Let's have a look here. Let's have a look. Just pouring myself a glass of water. I am going to do an Instagram live soon going around contamination OCD. So doing things like showing a bathroom, for example, in my house, and what contamination OCD things people do in relation to bathrooms, because there's so many variations in there. And I think it's really important to cover that, because what happens is people feel very alone with a lot of contamination OCD. Let's put this glass of water over here. People feel very alone with a contamination OCD, but in reality, it's not. It's when you have an understanding, like say for example in a bathroom. In a bathroom, there's so many things that can be a catalyst for or a trigger for contamination OCD, like mold, for example, on tiles. I haven't got any mold on tiles, thank God. But mold on tiles, people think, oh, what happens if that contaminates me? Lime scale, people can think, what if that contaminates me? Or others from leaving it there. What other things do people worry about? Slipping in bathrooms. What if I slip, get knocked unconscious and left there? What if I contaminate it in some way that then someone else gets a disease? What if there's very many different ones in there that happen but I mean, it's not just contamination of cleaning to prevent disease or to pass disease. It's not just that. It can be all variations of things, like really out of the contamination OCD subject. It could be really long hot showers to feel relaxed and staying in them for ages to try and get the relaxed feeling. It can be getting in a hot bath and being concerned that the bath is when the bath's too hot, and then you get heart palpitations and think there's something wrong with you because of the blood vessel constriction. What other things have we got there? There's so many things in bathrooms that come up. Oh, cleaning products around the toilet. What if you accidentally poured that in your toothbrush holder and drank it or something? What happens if your toothbrush has got particles from something in the bathroom? Maybe if you use the toilet and that then gives you an infection or a disease. What if, what other things are there? What if you've used your toothbrush and passed on HIV to somebody else in your family? All variations of that. But I will do rooms of houses and what OCD is involved in those at some point soon. Let's have a look here. Should our goal be to find no longer things see things? It's very important to understand that things aren't scary, that it's only our perception. And we don't have to make ourselves completely not scared of anything, but we need to have a good understanding of it to see that that is what's influencing the situation, because that's really what takes the edge off. Yeah, fear of a trauma returning or anything, it's getting comfortable with sensations and feelings, same as fear of anxiety returning. Like Claire Weeks says, wear it like an uncomfortable coat, and it's about getting comfortable with those feelings, not internally running from them, not internally rejecting them. Why am I not able to fully accept my harm OCD? Some days I can accept it even if it was real. It takes a while to develop unconditional self-acceptance. It's not overnight. It took me many, many months to really, really, really feel it. So it's not instant. Can OCD thoughts be absolute anything? Yes, but don't ask that question too much because it becomes reassurance. What to do when you've done recovery work and you haven't stopped feeling anxious, but it still doesn't feel right? Well, it doesn't feel right because you don't like that you don't like, so it's getting comfortable with that sensation. Did you experience derealization? Absolutely. And in relation to existential OCD, it kind of locks on like you're looking through a pane of misted glass, sort of locked in a solipsism world, if that's your existential specific fear. So it will create that derealization-like feeling. I mean, derealization, for me, and usually, it tends to feel like you're sort of slightly off center of where you are in your mind. So you're sort of like an inch out of your reality, just sort of there. And then when you've got solipsism chucked in there, you sort of just feel sort of, it's kind of like being in a fishbowl, sort of misted fishbowl sensation. It's very much like that. Most people do not understand existential solipsism-related OCD, so you need to have a little bit of an understanding to see what's going on, because it's easy to feel very alone, especially as the sensations are creating an alone-type sensation. Why are you on mute sometimes? That's probably me putting my finger under the mic. Okay, yeah, so those are I think it's very important that sort of whole solipsism thing is to realize that OCD hijacks sensations in a way that it makes anything feel real. Someone who's got gay OCD feels like they're gay. Somebody who's got existential OCD feels like they're might be possibly in a separate solipsism type brain in a vat scenario. So all different variations. So it's aware that it can hijack like that. And also remember, you've got other contributing factors. So when you've got derealization, you're very internalized. You're looking at all your sensations, how you feel at all times. Solipsism, just for the answer to that question, is the brain in the vat philosophy, where we can't tell if we're real, everyone else is real, or everyone else is fake, and we're the only one real because we're a brain in a science laboratory that's being it's having connected, sort of a matrix-like scenario. And so our reality is fake. That's basically that concept. Where was I with, what was I talking about before? I just said about that. Yeah, so what you're looking at with, yes, I know. So you're very internalized when it comes to solipsism. Someone with solipsism, for example, or for any of those existential, they're very internalized. So mindfulness can be very bad for them often, because it's just not as in harmful, but just make them not get better because they go more internal. And you've got a lot of different sensations. So, for example, you've got hay fever at the moment. I get hay fever this time of year. You can have symptoms and sensations with hay fever, and then you think, oh God, the sensations are even worse now with this derealization, and now I'm getting worse or whatever. Everything can add to a sensation. It's about getting very comfortable with any sensations. If you know that you've got hay fever, look, I just sniffed there when I just said hay fever. Maybe that's a psychosomatic. So when you've got hay fever, you don't care because the doctor says to you, all right, not doctor, but the website or whoever you've spoken to on hay fever in your life says that, you're usually harmless, no big deal, and people live their life and function. All right, for some people it is a big deal, but I'm talking about in the majority of cases. So you roll with it, and it's the same with derealization. It's about learning to roll with it, learning to be at peace with it, wearing it like that uncomfortable coat. But when you're so scared of it, thinking it means imminent death, then or you're stuck like that forever, then you get more scared. But it's getting comfortable with the idea that even if you were stuck like that forever, you could still live your life and you could still function and so on. So I think that's really, really important to remember. Because otherwise we can very quickly get into this cycle of just thinking something's gone wrong with us, we're broken, we're different to everyone else, and we're never going to get out of this. No one understands, going forum to forum, chasing every symptom, trying to find the exact same scenario. How does they'll mimic any sensation because you're very in tune with anxiety in the nervous system firing up. So anything it locks on, it will just give that signal. Basically, what's happening is we are scared of something, so we are then looking out very carefully for it, and then the nervous system fires up in that position. So if you're very scared of, but look, it doesn't matter even if you're scared or not. Like you can get a random pain in your leg because of anxiety when you weren't thinking about your legs. So they will change and move around. That's just the nature of how they operate. Been really struggling with solipsism OCD. So I've done videos on existential and solipsism OCD on the YouTube channel, so you can see that, and that's a good place to start for that fear. That sneeze, as I was just talking about hay fever. Let's have a look here. I don't think me talking about hay fever has made that symptom come on. I think it's just coincidence. Please reply, Rob, how to differentiate between OCD thought? You can't. Okay, you can't, because if you could, you'd just go, okay, I've got such and such OCD. Okay, just do that thing. Okay, differentiate. Now you've got peace. You don't get peace. You have a rough idea, and then you can live your life with it there, and you think, okay, I've got a rough idea. But OCD can be at times absolutely convincing, where you can't tell the difference between it's real or not. So there's no way to specifically split between the two. We get under it with unconditional self, life, and other acceptance, as well as getting comfortable with uncertainty and creating a distance with the thoughts. That's the main thing. That's a whole process. Takes a little while to do it, but you certainly are not going to be able to go, okay, this is an OCD thought, this isn't, and turn it off like that. If it was that simple, it wouldn't be the disorder it is. How can I have a private talk with you? Please email info@ocdrecovery.com for all coaching sessions, group or one-to-one. Real event OCD. Yes, real event OCD is the same as all the other OCDs, it just is another format. So it's looking to anything in the past. It tends to look into the past more than it does into the future. We can in the future in relation to health disorders. The same with all anxiety disorders tend to do that. But it will choose the past because the past is something that can't be changed. So it will look to latch to that in the past to create that sensation of anxiety. So that's why we come under that with life, unconditional life, and unconditional self-acceptance to get underneath that. Trust OCD thoughts as much as you trust Instagram filters. Yeah, one of my quotes. Thanks, Jagpal. Yeah, so it's very true, though. That is reality of the situation. All right, guys, I'll be back on here soon doing another Instagram Live. I was just coming on here quickly because I hadn't been on here for a while. I will see you on the next one. All right, guys, take it easy.